It's Beat Matt Batrep.
Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, bringing you another Beat Matt Batrep. In case this is the first time you've ever watched a Beat Matt Batrep, Batrep is not my last name. It is short form for Battle Report. There's actually people who thought my name was Matt. Yeah. And also, this is how it works. People can go onto the forums, Mini Wargaming forums, and challenge me to a game of 40k, fantasy, War Machine, Firestorm Armada, or whatever we happen to play. And if they win, they get a $25 gift certificate, $25 in points to the online Mini Wargaming store. Today, I have been challenged by Kyle, who has driven all the way from
Cambridge.
It's
a little ways away.
Should ask you these questions beforehand. Who's driven all the way from Cambridge to challenge me to a game of Firestorm Armada. So for those of you who have been wondering why don't we play Firestorm Armada, it's because nobody challenged me. But we're going to play today. It's actually going to be a big game, almost 1,000 points. I think it's just 920 points of my Aquan Prime against your Alliance fleet of
Ralthosa and Directorate.
So let's jump right into it. Let's take a look at the armies as well as the table layout.
Let's start off by looking at Kyle's Alliance fleet. So this has the two armies put together here. He's brought basically 60% of the one and 40% of the other. So of course leading the entire army is the battleship, and this is the Ralthosa battleship. Now the Ralthosa are known for their cloaking. He's got 3 escorts, so these ones give him extra assaulting marines so he can take over other ships. It's backed up by a group of 3 cruisers, as well as 2 groups of 3 frigates. Now the Ralthosa rely heavily on assaulters to take over ships and also to make ships not as useful as it destroys their crew, which is a very effective tactic if you're wondering. Over here we have the Directorate allies. We've got a group of 3 cruisers here, as well as 2 groups of frigate. These guys will be frigates. These guys will be providing the fire support necessary. And along with this, we've got some wings. We've got 6 assaulters, 2 groups of 3 that are just independent, and then 1 group of 3 that's within the battleship. So that is 1,000 points. It's actually 920 points. On my end, I have 920 points of Aquan Prime, and this is it right here. For the first time ever, I'm able to bring in my big Manta battle carrier, which I was pretty excited about. That's this huge one over here. And he has 3 mine escorts, so these guys all drop 5-point mines. Now this battle carrier is better than my battleship, and it's also better than my carrier. It costs only a few more points too, which is really nice. It can carry 9 wings, which we'll be seeing in the game. And the escorts are, of course, going to be dropping bombs or mines. We've got 2 groups of cruisers here, a group of 3 and a group of 2. And we've got 3 groups of 4 frigates. I decided to put them into 4 so that when they link fire, they have a lot of firepower. The wings I decided to bring were a group of 3 interceptors, another group of 3 interceptors, a group of 5 bombers, and 4 fighters. So the bombers and fighters would try to take down ships, and then the interceptors would try to intercept as assaulters and provide more point defense. Now for deployment, you go back and forth. We have a 4x4 board that we put 2 groups of asteroids. Those asteroids that you see there, they're really area terrain. Nothing on the board is really to scale, and so it really maps out the part of the board that has the asteroid field. So think of it that way. So we go back and forth deploying our ships. You can see he put his battleship on his on one of my flanks, obviously hoping that it'll come up and provide fire support from the side, while everybody else kind of pushes through the center. By having these 2 asteroid belts, you have this center area that everybody's kind of forced into, because if you go too fast through asteroid belts, you have a possibility of sustaining damage. My tactics here were basically to drive up the center as much as possible, group all his guys together, and then in one huge effort, let my big Manta battle carrier with its 3 escorts drive right through the middle of them and drop the 5-point mines that it could then use to blow up a lot of its ships. And so everything here, and I have the frigates behind so that they can kind of be the second wave of shooting, as you will see happen in the game, because frigates are actually very, very useful later in the game if they remain undamaged. So in this case we rolled for initiative, and I won the initiative, which means I get to go first. Now if we go back and forth in Firestorm Armada, I activate 1 and do everything for it, and then he does 1. So I activate the first group of frigates, and I'm actually moving them up into the asteroid field to provide them cover. Essentially, if you move less than half your distance, or half of your movement, you are unaffected by it, and you cannot fire through more than 8 inches of asteroids. He moves up his cruisers and takes a shot at the escort, and unfortunately doesn't do any damage. He fires his torpedoes, gets a lot of hits in, and the 6s do cascade, but I have a lot of point defense around it and I was able to negate it. Next, I see an opportunity here because his cruisers are now up in the open, and you really want to take down cruisers as soon as possible. And so I move up my first group of 3 cruisers. One of them has the one group of wings attached to it, and then I open fire. Their best guns are in their front, so I get my front facing him. I roll quite a few 6s, and rolls another 6, and another, and we actually get a lot of hits. It's a critical hit. So the middle one takes 2 hull points and actually sustains 2 assaulters damage as well. And then I'm linking fire with all my torpedoes, and I don't manage to do much. And that is really all the damage they do there. But, you know, 1 critical hit is pretty good. Next, he moves up his frigates, and then he's not able to fire because of the asteroid belt. I move up my other group of cruisers, really bent on destroying this group of cruisers as much as possible that he has out front, because if I can nullify them, that's a lot of firepower. So they go and they fire. Again, I roll a lot of 6s, and this cascades to a critical hit, and it just keeps cascading, but it's still only 1 critical hit. I rolls a double 1, which means the ship explodes, and all the other ships around it take hits as well. So the other one takes another hull point. So that double 1 was awesome because it would destroy the ship outright, and it didn't hurt the other ship. I then fired torpedoes, and managed to get a few hits, and his point defense fails him completely, allowing the other ship to take a hull damage. So even if I don't destroy these cruisers, they're pretty much nullified, because one of them's dead, one of them's almost dead, and the other one is damaged. But I'm not happy yet, so my battle carrier moves up, intent on finishing the job. And it, of course, moves up, opens fire on the least damaged ship, rolls a few 6s, and gets enough for a critical hit, and that sustains another 2 hull points. Let's see what else it does here. It kills, it's fire control, so he's not able to fire next turn, or something like that. And then I open up with my torpedoes and finish off the ship that just got the critical hit. Next, he moves up his big guns, followed by the escorts. Now he's on the edge of the asteroid belt, so he can see around without any problems, and he sees my cruisers and decides to return the favor. Rolling a few 6s of his own, that cascade, he gets a critical hit, which we'll see what it does there. I believe we lose an assaulter, we lose a crew, so it looks like it was the one that you lose 2 crew, so that got spread out. And it's going to, oh yes, it's venting or something like that, so it's going to continue to take damage next turn as well. Next, I move up my 4 frigates, and here you're going to be able to see exactly just how useful frigates can be if you have them in large enough groups. They go after the last cruiser there, and they roll, and you can see that by linking fire, they actually have enough to do 1 more damage, which finishes off the cruiser. So that first group of cruisers is completely dead. Next, his frigates move up, and they're going to try to return the favor. So he's got the 3 of them, and they're going to fire into the cruiser with the interceptors attached, and he actually gets double 6s, and so manages to do a damage there. He actually gets a critical hit, which destroys a couple of the crew. Actually, no, sorry, it starts a fire on this cruiser, so it loses a crew, loses 2 hull points, and is now on fire, and so it might continue to take damage next turn as well, next time it activates. The next frigates move up. They decide that they don't like the fact that those frigates did that, so they fire at them. Unfortunately, do not do any damage. Then his other group of Ralthosa frigates move up, and they want to, of course, draw even more damage in. You find that in Firestorm you'll get a lot of the damage in the second turn. The first turn is about just picking off what you can. Unfortunately, they don't do anything. And then his last group of cruisers move up. These guys are cloaked, so that means I only get to hit them on 5 and up, but he only gets half his attack dice. So instead he shoots his torpedoes, which are not affected by that. Actually cascades a lot of 6s there. I, of course, have tons of point defense around that, so it doesn't really have any effect. Torpedoes are more effective later in the game when point defense have been damaged, and the torpedoes have not. So you can see I'm driving up the center here. He's trying to do some flanking maneuvers. I have his battleship on the one end to be worried about because my cruisers will have a hard time against it. Battleships are actually very difficult to destroy. And he's driving down the middle as well. I'm still hoping that'll draw him in. I've taken damage. He's lost 3 cruisers. I've taken damage on a couple cruisers. So at this point, it looks like I'm ahead a bit, but it's really hard to tell at this point because a lot can happen in 1 turn. So stay tuned for turn 2. Post a comment below who you think is going to win, and then watch turn 2 and see if you're right.
Visit miniwargaming.com to see our videos 1 month early.